ladies and gentlemen, welcome to X Marks the Box, an Xbox podcast. My name is Potato, Chief of Lewis, or whatever you want to call me, and I'm with my good friend, Alice. Hello, Alice. How you doing?
Hi, and and this is Alex or Alice, I don't know. And there's Lewis over there. My pronouns are she, they, and and you'll probably be wondering what's going on, but this is a podcast about all things RWBY or stuff like that, and it's just me and Alex. I know this is like well, I saw the latest episode of RWBY, and I think it was like episode 6. And then when the Lewis and Alex get mentioned, then it just reminded me of a host of this Xbox the Box podcast with Lewis and me. So I thought, wow, I just thought I would do this like really funny joke in it. It's terrible, isn't it? Anyway, well, this is not an actual podcast, so sorry if I somehow like tricked you into thinking like, oh, it's a fake podcast or another episode of Xbox the Box. But I just really wanted to do this episode for a while because I'm struggling to get through the channel. I have a lot of ideas for the different videos I can do for it, but I just really want to dedicate like a few minutes of your time to like go through what I'm experiencing at the moment, and also be open and honest about my feelings over this channel. So, if you don't mind, you can like check it out. But if you're really here for like RWBY Volume 9 and my impressions of it so far, which is only going to cover like first 6 episodes. But if you're here for that, then I'm going to give you a timestamp just down below and skip over it. I'll also throw in a chat to check out RWBY Volume 9 impressions, and you get to like find it out. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, which is also a difficult thing to do, is talk about my mental health at the moment. One of the things I did, one of the techniques in which I get to do when I start the new year, is if you do the things in the 1st of January, like if you do an activity, you end up doing this activity for the rest of the year. I was hoping to spend this day to do video editing or even do writing. I was able to find some time to do writing, but I was struggling with a cold, and I spent most of the daytime trying to recover. And I did some writing at the end, and I got into like a few projects. But unfortunately, I haven't done as much work as I hoped to do. And it's just when things are going to get very difficult for me. Recently, I have been procrastinating. I'm still delaying things. And I'm just struggling to be able to get into routine as well as getting motivation for projects. Like, I have a few videos I'm interested to talk about. I'm interested to talk about Pizza Tower, which was released in late January. It's not on Xbox, but it certainly got itself really popular that I wish for it to like come on Xbox. And there was a lot of stuff like Halo Infinite and other topics I like to do in like video essays. But the only thing I brought out is the Game of the Year, which I was supposed to get this done early January. It took a huge delay because of the cold I had, and it was rough because I haven't had one for years. But then I took more weeks for me to prepare and get it out. And when it came out, it wasn't as received as when Lewis did his own video on the Game of the Year. I was also hoping to use the same techniques in it to make another faceless video. And I'm hoping to do 1 or 2 more. But then I just keep getting distracted. I just couldn't get onto it. and I've also got other important things to deal with, like getting new projects. Also working on the fifth draft of my book, which I've been working on parts of it like last year, but I haven't still completed it. I done a few other projects too, as well as doing articles and videos, which I don't really want to express too much about it. But I've also been working on the other projects that took up my time as well, and I like to do writing as much as I can. And it was a bit ironic because it's just like doing YouTube videos involves writing, and the process, let's put it this way, X marks the box, we don't follow a strict schedule and the team organization. We do weekly podcasts, we like stick to the schedule, but we have a bit more of a a more relaxed approach on how we can approach doing videos. Like, we try to do the podcast every week, and usually we put a bulletin of what we need to talk about. And I think it's just a way of me like getting in touch with things and talking to Lewis more those times every week. And I think it's just what is the most exciting thing of every week. No, I'm not lying, really. But when it comes to videos and bits like that, like, one, it takes like a bullet list, but I tend to like write scripts and get those done for videos. Like, when I was working on like talking about the next weapons for Halo Infinite, I was working on a script, but I find it hard every day to find time. Literally, like, I wake up, I was going to take a shower and get on the rest of the day, even take walks and do all the daily activities, and relax to do scripts and even work on my book. But unfortunately, I've been spending more time daydreaming. I often spend hours daydreaming, pacing up and down the room, and I also think so much about a lot of things that I rarely get out. I sometimes go into late afternoon to take shower or even get myself dressed. And it's just almost as if I'm afraid of like doing those things. And I just don't even want to get ready for a day because I just find daydreams to be better because I just think the world at the moment, I don't want to go into specific details, but I think you can understand where I'm coming from. But I've been struggling with having to cope with the cost of living issues, the political side of things, and also to do with identity. And I just think it just adds to the pressure of like having to cope with so many things, trying to get myself back into routine and everything as well. Like, I think there was a Rooster Teeth controversy, for example, during October, and I was involved in such a heated discussion that got me up to until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, once closer to 5, and it just really ruined my mental health. So I learned to stay away from the community, not get involved with RWBY, so I can like focus on my well-being. But since then, I haven't easily recovered from it. I've been through a startup business project in like 2019, and I was trying to like get through. I got an entrepreneurship degree at Falmouth University, learned a lot of tricks of trade, and got into marketing. And I was really interested to come up with a business idea after I left the startup business because I didn't get on with it. And part of it's just that it's been stressful. I have well-being issues and my wishes hasn't been respected. Like, I was expected to work 40 hours a week and have to hit that high expectations. Like, I was demanded to not be late or get to do more tasks, and I just couldn't keep up. And I ended up keep myself getting worked out, getting work-related stress, and I'm also increased my social anxiety because of the environment. ever since I left, I didn't jump into different kinds of work and I tried to relax. Then the pandemic happened and there was like a lockdown, which meant that work related stress didn't get better and my social anxiety got worse and worse. Last year, I've been taking more steps to go outside more. I even traveled to different counties in Great Britain, and I like been to Bristol and other places during Christmas. And I think this is a major step which really helps me to like get over my conditions. But then it didn't really help the fact I've been having trouble with my routine. I'm I'm still procrastinating and I'm not having a lot of motivation. If I have to be honest, I was told that I have to wake up early in order to. I was literally told that there is one thing that makes me wake up early in the morning, like 7 or 8 o'clock, and something I'm really excited to do. I have not found that specific reason. I often turn up late for podcasts, take as much time as I needed. I often miss out on doing writing projects because it will be 7 o'clock and I struggle to do writing. I sometimes work into the night, like 10 p.m. to towards after midnight. And that's where I usually do most of the work at. And I think it's just like I just don't see any reason for me to like wake up early in the morning to do anything that I wanted to do. It's just me trying to survive, look after myself, buy food, because a lot of hours I spend is daydreaming. I've been daydreaming so much that I just don't really want to get involved with this reality, and I just think it's just really difficult. As part of the X Marks the Box, I've been like doing podcasts, and I often bring out the better results when I do editing on podcasts. I use Final Cut Pro, and Lewis uses like Vegas still, I think. I don't know. It'll correct me on that, so I would imagine so. But I often like take over because I have a more powerful machine, which I bought like last year, the Mac Mini. It's so good so far. It's got more RAM, and I was like trusted to do OBS. And then I get this video to put in Final Cut Pro, edit it, try to make sure it's all perfect, and then I have to render this video and then upload it on a slow connection, unless I have to travel elsewhere in order to get faster internet, because at the moment I don't really have a fast enough internet to do this at my own home. However, I'm getting burnt out. I've been like doing a lot of editing process, which I do get help from Lewis at times, and I appreciate that. He does the thumbnails and doing some like CEO parts, so as well as like trying to like promote it on like social media. So thank you for that, Lewis. But when it comes to the slow connection and the fact it's not getting as much views or attention as I hoped, it just kind of gives me more doubt of whether this is actually effective. Like, I don't want to be that pessimistic by saying this, but I just think it just kind of weighs me down, and I shouldn't really be like feeling like this, but I think combined with my mental health, it's just like makes it very difficult for me to like keep up, sticking to the routine, and even get to the podcast early in the day. And I just think it is rather difficult for me to sort all this out. Um, it's also for this reason that I'm struggling to do like other videos, and I got aspirations to do other projects which I love to do for the Xbox the Box, but it's currently being given a lower priority, and it's for this reason that you may not see a lot on this channel. So it's not great. Of course, you could say that like if this like takes a lot of a work there and I get like some break, then it could be easier for me. But for this channel, which was established like about August last year, like it was the Xbox Box was originally on the Potato Chief channel, which is now called Xbox Pro Wrestling. He's he does a lot of amazing wrestling content on it, and I think it's really amazing. But he also like puts games on there, and it's also where the podcast used to be. And I said to him that would it be better if we just put on the gaming supplementary channel and call it Xbox Box? We eventually agreed. We got this channel set up, and I bought more ideas and pump up with more content. And I just literally think that this year, January, for the developer direct with Hi-Fi Rush, I still say this is probably the game of the year so far. I'm still waiting on others to see how they contend with it. And there's also like more content, which led to an explosion in subscribers, which came from about 24 or 30 or some sort. But then it just elevated about like 74 or 75 subscribers. And I think, wow, this is just amazing. And I just hope that more people will come in and like subscribe to our channel. And I think this is fantastic. So if you're one of those people who subscribed this year, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. However, in the moment, I was literally lost. I don't know what really motivates me. I've been struggling with writing stuff as well as video editing stuff. And I was told that I should step back and look at my life and what I can do. One of those things is I would turn off internet and like focus on things like books or taking walks and see what really motivates me. But then the podcast does require internet connection. There's one or two things that I have to rely on the internet connection for. And I also like playing more games, which I found it really great with Halo Infinite, which I'll get onto that. But I just feel that the support I'm finding is not helping. I've been taught about cognitive behavioral therapy, which I got it in like 2020, but I still don't remember those techniques. And also, it's just like, I just feel as if I'm not getting enough support. The GPs I contact with, if they haven't given me solutions for it, they just acknowledge the problems and identify what it could be. But they are pretty much like imminent aiming. They suggested like Headspace or other programs to me, but I haven't got into it. I've been on Headspace for a year, didn't help, and it's not great. And maladaptive daydreaming is not even recognized by the NHS, because when I like contacted with the GP, they just sent me the Sleep Foundation link to explain what it is. That's it. I mean, nothing is explored from there. So I'm just really at odds, and I'm really struggling to like get ahead and just find ways in which I can like get this stuff done. It's not to say that I'm no longer interested in this channel, or it's not me like saying I'm leaving this channel. It's just I just don't want you to be disappointed if there isn't a lot of stuff going on, because at the end of the day, it's just well-being is more important than everything else, and I would appreciate if you understand that. Anyway, so now then, now Xbox motivations, and it's named of Xbox. Yeah, so if I'm gonna have to be honest here, trying out different games, which is part of Xbox the Box, is hard. It's easy to find news for it. I don't have a problem with it. We found more news to shove into the podcast, and it took a long segment. And I thought we might have like brought in too many news into it. And I mean, this most broad part of the podcast. but it's something I'm okay with finding it. I'm also okay with talking with topics. I'm interested in the Microsoft deal and how all those things are known. And it's those kinds parts of the videos that we get the separate videos from there, which focuses on a particular subject. Like if we're talking about Halo Infinite, we take the segment out as a separate video in addition to the podcast, and vice versa. Usually it gets more views, like often like sometimes it goes over 100 views, and I think that's really great. Whereas the podcast episodes can often range between 20 views to about up to 100 views. I mean, we have yet to get an episode that will reach over 100 views, but we'll see. We'll see. But when it comes to like discussing about games, most of the time I've been talking about either Halo Infinite or one other particular game, and sometimes I talk about third-party games, especially if they're very old. And I think it just leads to this point that I'm not really catching up with the latest games on the Game Pass. There's games like Guilty Gear Strive, there's Pentiment, and there's also Plague Tale, which I should be spending more time on it. But unfortunately, I still haven't got on with those. When I started the podcast with Lewis, especially when assuming, I did said it's going to be very different for the games and it may not be on Game Pass. I'm just the kind of player who actually like prefers to find a game I like and spend hours into it. And those games like Civilization 6 or Halo Infinite are the ones I can spend hours into it. But when it comes to the games where I'm like, have to try the games and they play for like 5 or 10 minutes, it kind of bothers me because sometimes I don't get into the huge gist of the game. Also, I end up with a lot more achievements for me to get. And sometimes I'm not even finding the time to do them. Like sometimes I enjoy watching TV shows, but I prefer to watch books, check out Netflix, or even like watch YouTube, for instance. I mean, I would rather do this or even work on my book instead of like doing games all the time. Like, I'm in the 30s and it's it's just something that it doesn't really get me into this whole thing anymore. I think I said in the past that when I used to play loads of games as a kid. I was like, oh, I would like to make games. Been trying to go for the games industry as a games developer or games designer, and just really wanted to like get into it. But unfortunately, it led to a lot of bad experiences, and I looked deep down and I just realized I just don't really fancy games development, and I think making games is no longer fun, and this is just not great. Then it just goes deep down that playing games is actually more of a stress release or coping mechanism, and it's just what really interests me. I do find like daydreams to be the best coping mechanism for me, and I think when it comes to books, like I need to read more books to help with my writing and doing all those sort of things. But yeah, it's just those things that I'm spending more time with those instead of like focusing on games all the time. Because sometimes there's some parts of the days of the week where I don't play games at all, when it could have been spent on like doing research on playing games. And I think it's not only good for our podcast, it's also good for games development as well. So, and that's why trying different games is so hard. Atomic Heart, I get to try it out in February, and I was given enough an encouragement. I was originally not going to be playing it because of the political background when I shouldn't really be thinking about it like that. It's like, but then I was like encouraged and I thought, oh, it should be interesting. So I just went in and played the game. But after an hour of it, it's just like, it's just not that great. Since then, I've been struggling to get back into it after one sitting of playing this for the hour. And I heard from Lewis that it would take hours for it to get into the open world section, and I thought, probably not interesting. But then I just couldn't even like get into it or find the time to play it. Then I found out that there are Discord servers that you get banned if you get caught playing Atomic Heart, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I understand this is like a game development in Russia, and it's like has accusations as if it's against Ukraine, but I think it's just like as if it's being tied into so much political aspect. But I don't think, you should be punished for at least trying the game. Like, if you know that it's a sin to even play it, then you don't have, then you can stop playing it. In fact, I wouldn't be able to. I would rather not like pay it for the full retail price. The only time I get to play it is because it was part of the Game Pass, and I tried it, and it wasn't that great. But does this mean I get punished for it? Just like when it comes to this? Well, shouldn't be. Like, the game shouldn't really make people be blacklisted because they're playing the games that they feel as if it's going to contribute to the negatively to the some kind of environments they are in. And I get to understand what's really happening around those games, but it doesn't mean that is a sin to like not get involved with those kind of things. So sorry, I got the bit. But my point is, it's just like, it's not to do with like you shouldn't really be punished for that, but I just feel that games are being taken more seriously, and the games are being expected way too much. In fact, it goes into like you have to expect it with some like really impressive graphics. You have to deal with like so many like reasons to get back into it, and I think it's already turned into a branding and business aspects that like they expect you to just invest so much time into it, and I just feel like I just don't feel I want to get involved into it, and I just feel games are not as fun as when I play them on the Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, or even on the original Xbox. Like 20 years ago, there's Kung Fu Chaos, and there's even Blink, Sonic Heroes, and those are really fun games. But we don't actually get those kind of games like that before. I know, I just sound like an old timer just complaining about things that are released in the moment. Like, I enjoy some of the games that came out today, but it's just like it's more of a struggle to like try out different games, and I just don't really want to like get comb through games and not spending enough time with each. And I just feel as if I don't really have a lot to add to the table in this regard. It's also that like I used to go into Microsoft rewards where you do weekly sets and you try out games in order to get points so you can get more months of Game Pass. I haven't been doing a lot of it. I'm still trying to get into weekly sets and even like doing monthly rewards there, but I haven't been paying attention to it as before. And I just feel it just gets really repetitive, and I just don't feel like I need to do this every day where I have to collect points and get free Game Pass months. It also leads to this thing that I was considering to pause Game Pass because I'm not playing enough games from it. I have a massive backlog of games I have to complete, and that includes Mass Effect, Ghost Runner, Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. I even got Halo Infinite, which should be free for me to own, but I don't have Halo Infinite campaign because it's part of a Game Pass. However, I still have to keep Game Pass because of the podcast. But I don't know if that's going to be a requirement for the podcast, and I'm seriously considering pausing it so I can like focus on my own life and also save up enough money and Microsoft reward points to continue Game Pass. But I don't know. I just feel that this podcast, I don't really want to be negative, and I'm sorry to Lewis if I said those things because it sounded a bit hard hitting, but the podcast is pretty much too broad to explore every area of Xbox. And that's not limited to news, games, and even like all those aspects there. Things like Microsoft Activision deal and Halo, as well as like Xbox systems, those are easy subjects. But then you'll be left with other subjects like Sea of Thieves, Gears of War, and there's a lot of other such subjects that we are supposed to go through. But I think it's just problem is it doesn't have the exact identity to know like is it? I mean, I understand it has to be a more generalized Xbox discussion, and we do come up with some sub-subjects in order to keep this going. That is something we're working on, but it's just something that is a bit difficult to pin down. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like it is a fantastic idea to do, of course. And we like to talk about Xbox games. But I think there's been a lot of situations that I do share that blame of it too. Probably a lot of blame for it. But we sometimes run into non-Xbox games. We talk about Nintendo games. I went into TV shows and I talk about RWBY, and that's my fault. But there's also like discussions about, there's mentions of football on, I think, across Twitter and the social media. I don't know. And I think it's a little bit of a mess where we going off topic a lot, which is why we invented the outside the box so we can have off-topic discussions on individual subjects and get more people involved. And I think at the moment it's just like it just really works. I think we just come up with ideas that both of us can discuss about, and we bring this outside the box, which is not something the weekly topic thing, but it is something that we need to get those things off our chests in order to talk about it. However, certain subjects like The Last of Us TV show and RWBY Volume 9 didn't happen because both of us don't know about it. And same way when Lewis talk about different things and I don't know about it, like, I don't know, it's really difficult because we had to both agree on something that we both know about, and it's just really tricky there. But I think, to be honest, doing the X Marks the Box channel is a brilliant idea. It's always considered to be a gaming extension of Potato Pro Wrestling, or what it's used to be a Potato Chief channel. But it just means that more people are getting involved. We're bringing more ideas to the table, and we are improving it, and we're just getting more interested in this whole process. And I just think, like, it could have been a generalized gaming channel. We could have been focused on like Halo Infinite instead. But Halo Infinite at the moment has a very slow last year because Season 2 was being extended to 6 months. Then there's Winter Update, which didn't bring so much into the table. We also, and because it would be a Halo podcast, we have to do a lot of extra research on lore, books, and even the previous games in order to make this more relevant. And I don't think doing the podcast only in the Halo Infinite is going to cut it. So it just kind of like gives more reasons as to why it should be a generalized Xbox thing. And yes, doing subjects like the Microsoft Activision deal, and also talking about lots of random stuff like Xbox toaster or the fridge. I think it's just adds like an icing over this otherwise medley of all those Xbox games, and I just think it's really good. having an attender every week to discuss the news and share jokes is what really makes it exciting. We are even sharing lots of ideas, and I think it's just what really makes this channel fantastic. And I just really love for people to know this more and bring more people to the table. So it's really great. However, this leads to what is known as the future of X marks the box. And I've talked way longer than I thought I would do. I thought this is going to be a 30-minute episode. I would say that X marks the box must go on. I hope it would get on. However, Lewis is struggling to find more people. He's got friends who can do it, but I think he's struggling to find the ones who can actually attend and do the podcasts with him. And same can be said about guests, which leaves me to being the most motivated to join in the podcasts. And it's what I'm the reason for it happening. So I act as the batteries of this whole operation. I mean, I would rather help out by doing more podcasts out of the box and even like few videos. I find the shorts on YouTube to be a very good feature of this channel, and it's been taking in thousands of views. And I think this is really fantastic. But all of this takes a lot of work. I mean, for Lewis, he often comes up with a few ideas for this channel too, and he did some really impressive content, videos, and even shorts, and I think that's really awesome. But he also spends a lot of effort into the Potato Pro Wrestling channel with the reactions, video essays, and I think this is really fantastic. So I appreciate him for that. But quite often that I bring more ideas into this channel and I just couldn't even keep up and deliver everything. So therefore, it's just going to mean that I could be reduced to only attend podcasts and outside the box. And I could do shorts or something like that, but also haven't got a lot of confidence to do with whether I would do more editing or whether I can do bigger videos, because not only I have to get used to the routine and know if I'm not using too much space on my computer, which I got an external SSD, that certainly helped, but I'm also struggling to having to do massive videos over the slow internet connection, and it's not very practical, so I can't always upload videos all the time, especially interferes with the internet connection, especially if I want to play online matches on Halo Infinite, for instance. It's just not great. However, I'm still looking at doing another YouTube channel. It has been in my mind for so long, even when we started the podcast again last year. I've been doing concepts of my avatar, and I was going to do the YouTube channel about writing tips, but I just don't think I can get down and talk about writing. So it's probably going to be likely to talk about maladaptive daydreaming, creativity, and finding ideas. And I think this is where I find more confident into it. I might even do the podcast to talk about 90s culture or even 90s outfits for that matter. I don't know. But I think this stuff is what makes me more excited for than actually working on X marks the box. And I'm afraid to say that it just reduces my role on the channel, and means I may not be getting involved with it. I may end up having to take more breaks. I may not. I may end up having to take hiatuses. And the thing is, I don't really want to disappoint Lewis by having to do this every 2 weeks or every month. But if people don't mind about that, then let us know. But Lewis actually really wants to keep this like every week as stated in the podcast because we enjoy these discussions and I agree. But the amount of work it takes, especially editing, it's just like it's not that fun. So it's quite likely that Lewis might actually take over and like help, like only lend my voice over to doing the podcasts every week. But he also has a job to work at, which is very stressful, and he also works on particular pro wrestling as well. So, which is why it's me doing a favor of like doing editing the podcast every week. I also get burnt out by it, and it's just like it's just really not that fun. The worst case scenario is that I just hope I don't want to end up not attending the channel's work so much, but the least I'm gonna offer is me attending the podcast. I'm not always going to be around to do all the outside the box podcasts as well, but I would still, how do I put it? Well, I mean, the least I can do is just only attend the podcasts every week, and it's going to be the likelihood of how things are going to be, even if there's going to be a lot of exciting new stuff. What I do hope is I would keep attending the episode every week, talk about the latest news, and get to share jokes, and I think it's just what really keeps us going. Now, I'm just going to put this thing here. I was going to bring it up, but this hasn't been talked about enough. I've seen all these reaction images of Lewis reacting to wrestling and videos, but this is where, because it's just literally like his face he made from like talking about save file deletion glitch in like WWE, and then made his moody thing, and then I did the edit of it, and it's like, oh, it's creepy. But I didn't get to show up, and it's good. It's positive. I know. I know it's just a bit cheesy for me to like keep bringing this up, but if anyone likes to use it as a meme, let me know, and I'll figure out something about it. Anyway, gosh, been going on for minutes. But I'm gonna discuss about what I'm gonna talk about now is my impressions of RWBY 49. I know. Xbox channel, RWBY RFL released out last year, almost unheard of, yada da. I was going to do the outside the box on this. It could happen after like the release of RWBY and Justice League crossover, and yeah, that exists. Look it up. But it's going to be an episode of Outside the Box where Lewis would definitely not be interested to talk about it because he doesn't really want to discuss more about it on the podcast. So if there's any guests, let them know and we can get this episode happen. I was going to talk about it in February, but that doesn't really happen. But I just thought in this mental health update, like I don't want to betray anyone for this clickbaity title. So I just like talk about the 9th volume of RWBY, which is currently on Crunchyroll. So far, it's good. It's surreal. It goes beyond the norms of Ramadan, and I think there's like lots of interesting bits with it. Granted, there's some like really good episodes, like the 3rd episode and the 6th episode of the Bee Kiss. I mean, these have literally made the best moments of the entire show, and I think we can all agree on that. It's just so brilliant, and I think there were some really interesting characters like a Jabberwocker, Neo's semblance upgrade, and all those bits. Like, I think there's a lot of interesting parts with it, but it doesn't fill up with my expectations. And the only thing weird about it, I mean, RWBY did say that it's going to be weird and wonderful, but the only thing I seen about weird and wonderful is to do like how like goes beyond the norm of what is experienced in Remnant. Like, it tries to treat Remnant as if it's grounded in reality. When you go into something like that, it just kind of like relies on surrealism and lots of magic that you don't normally expect on Remnant. But I think the trouble is that the environment is treated more like a metaphor to be used as a tool to encourage character development. Like, there's definitely character development before Volume 9. It's been like forced character development and forced a lot of moments. And I think it just pronounces more of it so much that it doesn't allow for more room for lots of exciting ideas. Like, I expected something incredibly weird and something that is like whether it's still with the body horror and all those scary, dark stuff, like a grim fairy tale, but it hasn't been trying enough. And I think it just tries to focus so much on lots of developments on the characters. And I've just not seen a lot of exciting stuff that makes it really the best volume. I mean, I don't know what the last 4 episodes are going to be like, but it's not really living up to the hype. And I just don't think it's that great. Like, animation is good. I don't mind that there isn't a lot of fights, but you can definitely tell there's a lot of effort being placed into the animation, the writing, and I think it's all good. I appreciate it, and I think this is still better looking than most of the 3D animes out there. But it's definitely not the volume that brings me back to RWBY, I would say, and it's disappointed to say at least. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this like a 3 star out of 5 thing, but then maybe the final episodes can bring something interesting or something like that. But I don't know. But I still think that when it comes to with like the some interesting twists, that's kind of cool. For example, like John, I thought John is going to be a twisted, turn into a different character who gets transformed by madness and ends up attacking Team RWBY. But turns out he's actually older, and I thought, oh, that leaves in some interesting questions. Then episode 6 picks up a clock fruit, and time goes backwards, and I thought, it's downplayed. But then it's like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting because since he went back in time with the fruit, it just leads to more questions and theories of what could happen. And I think this is what Volume 9 does well, because after it reveals ideas, especially the near semblances, I think it just provokes thought of what to expect next in the show, and possibly leading with more ways to deal with Salem. Anyway, Salem is my favorite character, okay? Yeah, but yeah, I think it's just somehow brings some like downplayed ideas, but it also leads to some really cool dynamics, and I appreciate that. And I think like John at the moment in the show, when he got older, I think he's much more handsome and cooler, and I like it. And there's also Cheshire Cat that's like, it's okay, just fun. But I think Little Mouse really steals the show, which is seldom not talked about so much throughout the show, but certainly adds the warmth to this whole thing, so it's great. And also there's some like lots of funny moments. And I think one time when John went back in time and then meets up with Team RWBY, after he saw Yang and Blake kiss, he says, I waited so long for that. I don't know how that goes, but that stuff is really funny. I just honestly think that I just really hope that Team RWBY gets out of that ever after. And I know that people are hoping that Neo and John makes it out alive, but to me, I think this is a volume where Neo and John gets to exit from the show, either the death or getting trapped in the ever after. Also thinking that RWBY would end up turning into a different character, And this is one of the exciting things I hope for. But so far, it's easy to predict. Like a lot of the predictions I have for the next episodes, maybe because of the trailers, have been like met, and I think it's one of the things. I imagine there's going to be a Jabberwock with the Salem's head said for as its head, so that's one possibility. I mean, that's a prediction there. But I think it's very easy to predict and get correct on those kind of things. And I don't think there's like a lot of interesting ideas into it. But I just feel that Volume 9 is still a good volume, and I can agree on that, especially some of the best moments of the entire show. I think because of this thing, like stepping away from the fandom and also appreciating the show for its as it is, it just makes me more appreciative about Volume 9. And I think this is already like turning out to be quite good. And I'm also very glad that RWBY gets it out early this year. But I still feel that Volume 10 might actually get announced during RDX, but it wasn't greenlit. And I feel it's just not going to come out like later this year because it hasn't been greenlit, and it all depends on the Warner Brothers, who recently been cancelling projects left and right, and it's just not great. So I think the future for the show is just uncertain. However, I know the fandom is trying to defend the show as if it's not a niche and it's getting popular in Japan, but I think, as I have this difficulty, my friends too, it's very difficult to find anyone in non-RWBY places and communities who are actually really interested in the show. Like, I found one or two people who still watch the show and talk about it, but others are like either stopped at volumes 3 and 4, and they are not interested to watch the show anymore, and they don't really care about it. And I just think it's a sad reality. And I just feel that there's a lot of denial for fans, and just feel as if show is more popular than what it actually is. I still stand by that. I recommend you watch the show from Volume 1, but unfortunately, it's like Volumes 1 to 5 used to be on YouTube, then it moved over to Rooster Teeth, and then it just continued on like Crunchyroll, which you now have to pay for a subscription in order to watch them. And I just feel that, like, for the show that where they used to see it as a YouTube show, they can see it for free, like with the Red versus Blue episodes. I just feel that there's a lot of bad decisions, and that it tries to put it behind a strict paywall. And I feel it's just what drove a lot of people off from the show. And I think it's going to be very difficult. But it is actually going towards a much wider audience. So I think it's only a matter of time before knowing if the show is likely to be continuing one, which that's what a lot of us, especially me, who have followed the RWBY for so long, that we hope it will continue. Even Hayden believed that the show will reach to its eventual conclusion, and that would be great in the matter of few volumes. But the Rooster Teeth at the moment, especially with the new logo, which is kind of a bit garish, I just don't think like Rooster Teeth is very stagnant and just couldn't get this through. And I just don't really have a high hopes for it. And I just think it would be really hopeful if this show that it would, I think it would be handled by a different studio, or could be being placed in a much better working environment. Like, they're working as hard as they can to get a lot of volumes out, but I think it's just not looking very positive, especially currently on the chopping block by the Warner Brothers. And I think it really depends on not just Volume 9, but also on like the Justice League movie, which a lot of people don't really have a lot of hope for. So I don't know. There's going to be a lot more to talk about, and I'd love to have a guest about going about who would be happy to join me on talking about Out of the Box episodes sometime in May to talk about future RWBY. I mean, I would love to do that. It just means Lewis is not going to be around for it. But I think it's just one of the things that I'm still excited to do, even if I don't follow the show closely as much, that much anymore. But I just think, yeah. Anyway, this is my impressions of RWBY Volume 9, and I shared a lot of honest feelings about my mental health. So if you stayed all the way towards the hour, which is twice as long as I hope to do it would be, thank you for staying with me and listening to me, and it's much appreciated. And also appreciate Lewis for his hard work, and I still appreciate him for giving so much work into this channel. I mean, we do love for this to be one of the biggest independent Xbox channels ever made, and we'd love to keep this podcast going. We have plans for when it's for episode 50. We have something very special for that, and same we can say for the 11th. So no, the 100th subscriber special or 1,000 subscriber special. We do have lots of ideas for those kind of things, and I think there's going to be a lot of surprises along the way. So, but anyway, I just wanted to thank you for listening to me, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more updates. So, if there's anything new with my other YouTube channel, then I'll post it in the community. But until then, feel free to comment, and I love to be wrong, and I love to hear your thoughts on any of this stuff. And until then, I'm just going to leave you with some of the fan art of Salem on this video, and be sure to enjoy it. Anyway, take care, have a good time, see ya!
Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at X Marks Box on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube, and follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.